This is my home, and it has been for the past 20 years. But this might be a bit too general for a neighborhood tour. Let's get a little bit more specific. This is my current home of just over 10 years. In the span of those 10 years, I finished 9 years of school, graduated with a high school diploma, an associate's degree, and now working towards a bachelor's degree in computer science. A huge part of my life is situated within the neighborhood of Vancouver, Washington. However, this was not always the case. 20 years ago, I did not live in this house, nor this city, nor this country. This was my very first house that I can remember. It is in this small town that I spent the first 5 years of my life. Although I cannot remember everything from that age, there are 3 other places besides my house that stand out in my memory. The first place is the house of my mom's family. Rather, it wasn't really a house as much as an apartment that you can own. It was, and still is, on the 5th floor, which is nice as it offers a great view of sunrises, but not as nice because the elevator is broken, and still is broken to this day. The second place is the house of my dad's family. Almost on the other side of the town sits a white house with a blue roof. This house was built by my paternal grandfather and his family from the foundation up. Everything was done by my grandparents and their 5 sons, of which the second oldest is my dad. The last place is the church that my family used to go to. I remember the very tall ceilings and the huge chandelier that hung in the middle of the main room. 6 years ago, I had the great fortune of traveling to my birthplace and seeing the church again, but this time from an elevation higher than 3 feet off the ground. Not surprisingly, the ceiling was lower and the chandelier was much smaller. As time went on, my dad's older brother Igor moved to the United States, and my dad's parents and his 2 youngest brothers followed after. And not to be outdone, my family of 4 moved as well. This was my family's home for the first month of our lives in the United States. It was actually my dad's older brother Igor's house, but for that first month it was also our house. Once we were able to get up on our feet, my family acquired our first apartment less than 500 feet away as the crow flies. For 4 years my family lived there, until my younger brother came along and metaphorically kicked us out. This apartment complex named Hill Villa housed not only my family, but my grandparents' family as well, and for a short time my dad's aunt's family and my dad's cousin's family. Just a bit north of the Hill Villa apartments was the Parkview apartments, where my dad's other aunt and her family lived. One of her sons, who is half a year older than me, is a lifelong friend of mine. He is technically my cousin once removed, as I figured out not too long ago, but I always introduce him as my uncle to make things easier. This was also the residence of my first kindergarten friend. He was a troublemaker and once convinced me to skip my school bus stop on the way from school and go to his house. Just across the street is the David Douglas Park, where I spent many days playing with my cousins, foraging for blackberries with my grandparents, and exploring the trails and steep muddy slopes of the forested area with my uncles. To me, who at that time had no knowledge of the neighborhood, that forested area was magical. I would enter the forest from one playground, and some minutes later appear the completely new playground. Those were some good times. Life was not all fun and games, however. The same year that I came to the United States, I also started elementary school. This is Marion Elementary, home of the horses. I attended this school from kindergarten through 3rd grade. During one particularly stormy recess, everyone was called under the covers to get out of the hail, and allegedly the basketball hoop was hit by lightning. Of course, I was looking in the complete opposite direction and missed the whole thing. Towards the end of my time as a 3rd grader, we found out my mom was pregnant with my younger brother, and we decided that our apartment was too small for 5 people. This was the turning point in which my parents, my sister, and I moved to our current house. As my house changed, so did my school. For the rest of my elementary school career, I attended the Hazeldale Elementary. Luckily, I was able to attend the school the very first year that the newly built building was opened. From that point on, until high school, I was no longer a horse but a panther. Incidentally, in 5th grade, while participating in a track meet, I was able to get a glimpse of my future high school, Columbia River, although at that time, high school was far from my mind. My next step forward in education was to attend Jason Lee Middle School. For 3 years, I studied there and played in the school band. I participated in school concerts and tours, marched in the Hazeldale Parade of Bands, as well as the Junior Rose Parade, and came to believe that our band was one of the best of all the surrounding middle schools, and even some high schools. In fact, I still believe that. As my middle school days came to a close, I moved on to high school, which was only a few minutes away. In my freshman and sophomore years, I participated in the International Baccalaureate program with hopes of achieving the IB diploma. However, toward the end of my sophomore year, I realized that that was not the best choice for me. Instead of continuing with the program, starting in junior year, I enrolled in the Running Start program. For the next 2 years, my time was split between one class in after-school sports of Columbia River and the rest of my classes at Clark College. At the end of the 2011-2012 school year, I was able to graduate with a high school diploma and an Associate of Arts degree. That very next August, I officially became a student of Washington State University at Vancouver. Now I am progressing towards achieving a bachelor's degree in computer science. Outside of my school life, I go to church. This is the church that I have been going to for the past 14 years, but to this specific building for maybe 7. As I grew up in this church, I gained responsibilities. Currently, I'm the media guy. I am responsible for the sound, microphones, recordings, and related things. Going to the same church with the same group of people for a decade has developed some church traditions, one of which is going to Louisville Park at the end of the school year. This spot specifically for almost every year. This spot has seen many impromptu soccer games, volleyball games, and recently some tennis matches, as well as lots of food and barbecues. There has not been a time where I have not enjoyed this little slice of nature. However, this is not the only slice of nature that I enjoy. When my family first came to the United States, we were shown 2 places that have become ingrained in our family history, for whatever reason. The first place is Multnomah Falls in Oregon. I cannot count how many times we have been there, but I'm sure we have been there at least once for every season of the year. The second place is just across the Columbia River Gorge, Beacon Rock, or as my family called it for a long time, Bacon Rock. I don't know who first said that place is called Bacon Rock, but someone did, and it stuck for the longest time. Now, whenever we have guests over or newcomers to the Pacific Northwest, our family's first go-to nature spots are the Multnomah Falls and Beacon Rock. This has been a tour of my neighborhood, but I hope that the reaches of my neighborhood will not stop with these points, but continue to grow in the future.